Lith versus Heisenberg on is there an intelligent designer to biological life? We're going to have audience vote. You guys get to vote and say who you think won, but we're also going to have honored judges to help determine the winner. The judges are going to be Kaysen, who's a known Christian apologist here on TikTok and very knowledgeable on the subject at hand. We're going to have Just Jim, a very known and philosophically inclined atheist who's going to be very knowledgeable at hand. And then we're going to have Cage, who is Soren, who has gone to school for philosophy and is going to be very knowledgeable and able to judge the debates and say who the winner is. For the audience members, if you're watching the debates, please put your personal biases aside, listen to the arguments, and decide who you think made the best rhetorical case for their side. And also remember not to harass these individuals outside of this event. You can talk to them about the debates, ask questions, but please treat them like they're human beings. They're here arguing their positions that they believe in or maybe they don't believe in. Take that into consideration. Do not go overboard and harass them. In regards to gifts, please, before you gift me or before you gift AR, please gift the judges, please gift the debaters, and then gift us. It does help to contribute to everybody on the panel. Some of us are doing our projects, like me, AR, and maybe other people on the panel. The gifts do help us do more of these and help us to partake in any of the individual projects that we're doing. But we appreciate your presence more. We appreciate that you guys are here. That's what we appreciate more than the gifts. The gifts are an extra bonus. If you can't give, that's totally fine. The world is kind of crazy and fucked right now. But, we appreciate you just being here, and we appreciate if throughout the debates you tap your screen, share, like the live so you can get as many people in here as possible. We appreciate that way more than gifts, but gifts are deeply appreciated. With that, with the format, with the judges, with the audience, we're going to get to our first debate. And that'll be it. AR, if you want to add anything, feel free to add. But then we can get to our first debate and get started on the format.
You pretty much said everything. So, yeah, I'm just going to get to it.
Bet. And so I'm going to start the timer. And also during the debate, me and AR might jump in to moderate a little bit because that's one of the changes we're making to make these more professional and educational. But the format is going to be 7-minute openers for each opponent, 3-minute rebuttals for each opponent. Then this one's going to be a little bit weird, but we're going to have a 5-minute cross-examination for affirmation, then open cross-examination for 5 minutes, then 5-minute cross-examination for negation, then open cross-examination for 5 minutes, and then 3-minute closers. It's going to be a 46 total debate. You guys got that? You guys okay with that?
So we're going to keep the rebuttals?
I think that'll work, yep.
Yeah, you guys are,
that's
we're going
fine.
to get we're going to have the rebuttals and then the cross-examination, open, cross, open, then the closers. This was a format requested by the debaters, and I like it. It's awesome, and we can do that and make it run. So with that, we're going to do the affirmative first. That's going to be atheistic preacher saying that the Bible is misogynistic. I can start your timer whenever you say your first word, and you can start anytime, and we'll get on with it.
All right, give me just 1 second.
Absolutely. Take your time. Hopefully that wasn't wordy. I was improvising that, but hopefully it wasn't too wordy. Everyone comment below. Did you get the information? Is it all good? Should I have said less words? Let me know.
It was perfect.
But yeah. And I got a fruit fly in my room. So you might see me swat.
All right, I'm ready. All right.
Right.
Hello and good evening to all. Thank you for being here to hear the debate between No Degree Required and I on Is the Bible Misogynistic? I am AP, short for Atheistic Preacher, and I want to start off by thanking the hosts, Coco and AR, for having us on tonight on the Day of Debates platform, to the judges for their time, and to No Degree Required for meeting me on the debate stage again. With that, let's dive in. I believe the best place to start is to understand what misogyny is. Misogyny is a dislike of, contempt for, or ingrained prejudice against women. It's a form of sexism where women are under men, such as legal and social status, and can present itself in many ways. Most common being the lack of equal rights and value as to men, as well as lack of consent and bodily autonomy being taken into consideration for the woman's life. To further break down and understand this definition, contempt for is the feeling that of a person or thing is beneath consideration, worthless, or deserving scorn. Ingrained is a habit, belief, or attitude firmly fixed or established, difficult to change, and prejudice is preconceived opinion that is not based on reason or actual experience. Now that we have an understanding of what misogyny is, let's jump into what the Bible says about women, their roles, how they're treated, what God's perfect law says, and more. Judge for yourself if the scripture examples I bring up align with misogyny and unequal treatment of women for no justifiable reason. Let's start at the beginning. Eve is created for Adam, to be his helper, not as an equal, a helper. Genesis 2:18. And who appointed it this way? God. This is echoed in 1 Corinthians 11:9, when it states that a man was not made for the woman, but woman was made for man. When God is casting Adam and Eve out of the garden, he curses man with work and woman with multiplying the pain of childbirth. That's in Genesis 3:16, and that she will be ruled by her husband. Ephesians 5:22-24 teaches also that a wife ought to submit to her husband because he is her head as God is his. As if we needed more to help us understand the teaching of the Bible show God's views of women's roles, we see also in 1 Timothy 2:11-15 that a woman should learn in silent submission, never assume authority over a man, and to understand that it is because of Adam and Eve that women will be saved through childbearing. Now let's get into examples of how the legal system set up by this God character was used to control, oppress, and even take women by force. Starting in Deuteronomy 22:13-21, the law is given that if a man and a woman marry and he goes into her and then hates her, he brings her to the court and accuses her of not being a virgin. If the evidence is presented, a bloody sheet, the man is whipped, he is forced to pay a fine to the woman's father, and they are forced to remain married. Meanwhile, what happens to the woman if the bloody sheet is not presented? She is taken to her father's house and stoned to death at his doorstep. So out of hatred and a biological unfounded virginity test, a woman's life can be violently taken, and yet a man lives. He pays a fine to her father, takes a one-time punishment, and then keeps her as his wife forever. That alone shows the Bible's view of women and teaching being misogynistic. But let's continue on because there's still so much more. In 2 Samuel 13:11-19, we see the story of two of King David's grown children, his daughter Tamar and his son Amnon. Long story short, Amnon tricks his sister into his room, then forces himself on her. He is then overcome by hatred of her and casts her out of his room, despite her pleas that somehow was worse than the assault that just took place on her. And why would she think that? To understand this, we need to look at the law given in Deuteronomy 22:28-29, where it states that if a man seizes an unbetrothed virgin, which Tamar was, that the man should pay the father for her, and she should be his wife because he violated her. So because of this law that holds such an ingrained prejudice against women, Tamar believed that she was worthless now without being married to her brother, because he assaulted her. Now what about something that this perfect and just God character does? In 2 Samuel 12:7-14, the prophet Nathan rebukes David for sinning by ending a man named Uriah to cover up the fact that he got his wife pregnant, and then taking her as his wife once Uriah was dead. David repents, and in verse 13, we see God has put away David's sin, yet somehow still moves forward to take the life of the infant son born to him and his new wife, and cursing David's wives to be clearly taken in public. So we see a man do a sin, and somehow women suffer by her new baby dying, and all of them being taken in public. When it comes true in chapter 16, when David's own son Absalom overtakes the capital, and in an act of dominance, power, and war, takes his father's women in the sight of all Israel, at the instruction of one who speaks for God. Verse 23. How does this not show that women in the Bible are in a role of being beneath consideration, expendable, or scorned by treating them with this extreme disrespect? There is so much more that we could address on the God character of the Bible, its laws, or its stories of how it paints women as lower than men. They are for men to take, lead, and own, to make huge choices for them like marriage and childbearing. We can see how Hagar was taken and used for offspring, and then abused and kicked out once a true son was born. Genesis 16:1-16, and chapter 21:9-21. Or when we see that fathers can sell their daughters as wives, men deciding the future of women, like who they will be with and have children for, disrespecting their autonomy or equal say. Exodus 21:7. Or we can see examples of this in Genesis 24:50, when Rebekah's father and brother agree for her to be Isaac's wife with Abraham's male proxy. Or how about when God's nation was able to take women they desired from captives and strip them of their identities, only to make them a wife for themselves, and also having the loophole that if he didn't like her after, he can just kick her out. Deuteronomy 21:10-14. I'm sorry?
1 minute left.
Okay. There are still so many more passages that can be looked at, but let's pause here with this. Whether you believe the Bible is God's perfect word, his quote-unquote basic instructions before leaving earth, or if you believe the Bible is just ancient manuscripts written by ancient people of their time, we have to acknowledge the system and teaching set up here through myth, tradition, and legal codes are misogynistic. Thank you.
Cool. And with that, you had 32 seconds on the clock. Now, no degree, you're going to do your opening statement, and you get 7 minutes. And it starts whenever you say your first word.
All right. Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody joining us for this fantastic debate. This is a topic that's not really talked about a lot. It's a topic that most Christians don't really discuss. I have not really ever discussed it either. But in light of current information, I decided to tackle it. And I have to admit, for the first time in my life, in these debates, I wrote out a complete opening statement and realized, this just doesn't seem like it's going to work. So I ripped it up, threw it in the trash. And I knew that Atheistic Preacher would be providing, Bible passages that he perceives as misogynistic, while ignoring others, like where Paul says, submit to your husbands, and then he tells the husbands to love your wives like what Christ loved the church and gave himself up, never telling the woman to be willing to give her life. I knew he was going to ignore passages and books like Esther, Ruth. He'd probably ignore the passage in Judges where Judges chapter 4, where it was women that destroyed those pesky iron chariots that atheists seem to ignorantly think God could not destroy. He probably was going to ignore lots of other passages, but what I decided to do is just focus on a couple of brief points. Point number one, the Bible is not misogynistic because it does not teach hatred towards anyone, including women. And since Atheistic Preacher already provided the definition, which implies a dislike or a hatred towards women, the Bible explicitly teaches not to hate anyone, but to love everyone, including your wife or including a woman as yourself, your neighbors, whatever, whether that's male or female. Point number two, the Bible is not misogynistic because it elevates women into being equal to men. This is one of the things that historians point out, such as Thomas Holland, as well as others, that Christianity and the Bible actually elevates women to an equal status in society, unlike these other, one might could say, secular laws of the past. In fact, Galatians 3 says there is neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free. There's male or neither male nor female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. So since we're all one in Christ Jesus, the Bible can't be misogynistic. Also, since Eve was created from the side of Adam, implying equality with Adam, not from dirt like Adam was made, then this shows that the woman is a unique, beautiful creation specifically for the man. Now, if you think that's misogynistic, that's kind of a strange way to define misogyny. Misogynistic seems like you're just redefining words at that point. But to me, I think the main thing is the exciting new data that's currently coming out today, as we speak, which sheds light on the actual behavior of men and women, the natural way men and women do things. For example, women practice hypergamy. This is a known fact now among people who study the behavior of men and women. Hypergamy is this idea of marrying up or partnering up. Women specifically, and let me just say here, there are some exceptions, obviously, for Christian women who are virtuous in that regard. But generally speaking, women, when they're looking for partners, are looking for a partner that betters them in society. Someone who's either more intelligent, higher in social standing, richer, whatever. They're looking to marry up. While on the other hand, men are more interested in beauty and virtue, and they're more interested in a woman who will cost them something, but they're willing to pay that price. Men come into a relationship understanding they're going to be the one paying the most. Women come into a relationship understanding that they're going to be the one paying the least. So it depends on how much you're willing to elevate yourself as a woman and how much you're willing to give up as a man. And this is just common natural behavior that that experts have pointed out. Secondly, dating apps have shown that women choose the top 20% as high as the top 1% of men, and the 80% are virtually lower or virtually don't exist to them. Like a plumber, an electrician, a mechanic on these dating apps, they're looking for what we would consider the kings of society today. The influencers, the entrepreneurs, the rich lawyers, the ball players and stuff like this. This is what women are looking for, something that's going to elevate them. And what they're willing to do in order to accomplish this hypergamous step up is to essentially practice what's known as soft polygamy. Now, men are to blame for this too, because these kings, you could say, are willing to, use these women for their own pleasure with no intentions of settling down. The women know this; they know they're players, but they think somehow they have this. They've been deceived, misguided to think, oh, well, they're the woman that's going to land this guy. Well, what ends up happening is they end up practicing this soft polygamy. They end up, it doesn't work out. They ended up settling for maybe a lower 80%. Then they end up getting divorced in a few years. These are pretty common behaviors among men and women. The point is, all of them are consenting to this. Now, why is this important? Because in the Bible, there's passages that talk about men and women. In one case, it says that a king should not multiply many wives. Well, why does it say a king? Well, studies have shown women want the king. In polls and stuff, women, when asked, would you prefer to be the side chick of a king or the wife of a peasant? Most women will answer the side chick of a king. Now, of course, there's some exceptions to the rule. A virtuous woman who may be a Christian may answer differently, but this is a common answer among women. So,
finish up your last sentence.
What's that?
Oh, finish up your last sentence.
Oh, I was waiting for my 1 minute warning.
Sorry,
Oh no!
Give him a minute. Go ahead.
I'll give you a minute.
Okay, well, let me give you just a couple more little things here. So, the other thing is 52% of women today are actually the ones that have a backup plan, a backup partner. So the women today, it seems to be more than willing to practice these strange relationships and consent to this. And it actually destroys feminism, because feminism is this idea that women don't need a man. But even the most educated women among society, not only do they think they need a man more powerful than them. So the Bible is just dealing with the nature of women. It's not being sexist and misogynist. It's dealing with the nature of men. And that's how it should be looked at. Not that there's some sort of hatred toward women, because that's forbidden in the Bible.
Okay. And with that, 24 seconds left. From this point on, I will be telling both of you whenever you have like a minute left. I'll keep an eye out on that. So with that, the 7-minute openers are complete. Now we're going to move on to 3-minute rebuttals to the openers. So atheistic preacher, you get 3 minutes to...
Wait. Why can't we just put the timer on them so they can see the timer as well?
We could do that too. Yeah, that'd probably be better.
But you should also keep the time just in case we need to pause it for any reason.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Do both. Yeah. I could do the timer while you do the timer on there. I'll do the timer on here.
Okay. Yeah, we can do
Okay.
that.
Yeah. Just let me know when to start, and then we'll start.
Okay. And
Well, when he
if
says his first word, then
yep.
Yeah.
And you'll get 3 minutes to rebuttal. And it starts whenever you say your first word.
All right. I'll be honest. Most of that was gibberish. But there was one nugget in there that I would like to address. In this whole whirlwind of dating apps and hypergamy and kings and players and needing powerful men, he did mention how I was cherry picking and how I was taking things out of its context to try to say it's misogynistic when it doesn't teach the hatred of women. Well, I'm sorry, you can't make a cherry picking argument by cherry picking the definitions. Again, I was very thorough in my introduction about what misogyny is, as we were also in our messages prior. So when you were bringing up things like there is no Jew Gentile, no slave free, no man woman, okay, that's great. You're showing that you can take verses out of context to try to say that everyone is equal, but you cannot say that they're equal when there are literally multiple passages throughout the entire Bible that show that men are above women, and there's plenty more that we're going to address through the rest of our debate as well. So before you jump the gun and try to say that I'm not addressing these other passages, hold on, I am. Because when you try to bring up that, oh, but a man must love his wife, okay, cool, but how is he to love his wife? He's to love his wife in the example of how God, quote-unquote, loves his, quote-unquote, wife, which is his bride, his believers. And how does he love his bride, whether that was Israel in the Old Testament or believers in the New Testament? Well, we're going to actually look at how God loves his bride, and we're going to see how he treats them and the lack of consideration, the lack of respect, the lack of consent. And there's no way how you can say just because this one verse said a thing, that therefore we can ignore all the actions done by both the societies as well as the God character in the book. If your strongest response is, or if your strongest argument to is the Bible misogynistic is trying to rely on the contradictions of, oh, but it says love your wife here, then you've already lost, because you are admitting that, well, we can cherry pick, and therefore, if I can ignore all the bad stuff and only look at love your wife, then you are admitting that you do not have the Bible as a reliable tool on how to judge anything, really. You don't know anything about it. You are given a contradictory tool, and because of that, we can't use it for you to say the Bible is or not misogynistic. So in the rest of the debate, I want you to pay attention to all the questions and everything that we discuss, because we are going to address how the actual actions of the society and practices of them through their legal codes and traditions and the actions of this God character are not reflective of loving your partner. And that's all.
Okay. And with that, that concludes your time. No degree. We're going to start your time whenever you say your first word. Pay attention to the timer above your icon. We're not going to do the 1 minute warning, but we're just going to have timers that you can watch as you speak. So it'll start once you
Above
say...
my icon, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you'll see a timer above your icon, and you can just watch it as you speak.
Okay.
And it'll start whenever you say your first word.
Okay, I would like to just remind the definition that we essentially agreed to is a person who dislikes, despises, or strongly prejudiced against women. Dislike implies a hatred and towards women. The Bible obviously teaches against hatred. Jesus clearly says there's weightier matters of the law: love, justice, mercy. These things are the most important. So obviously, when you look at the Bible as a whole, it's not misogynistic because it elevates women. In fact, it teaches that men should be willing to be the servant of the family and give his life if necessary. But it doesn't tell the woman to do that. So the irony here is, one could even say, by the same reasoning atheist preacher is using, he could say that the Bible is, I don't know what the word is for men, but essentially misogynistic against men as well. By that same standard, a parity of reasoning argument, and he wouldn't be able to refute that because I can point to passages doing the same thing. In his opening statement, he brought up Tamar, and he seemed to imply that there was some sort of something going on there, misogynistic. Well, it was Tamar, after this terrible thing was done to her, it was saying, hey, the king will give me as your wife. So I'm not sure what he's meaning here. I guess he just...
Oh, we can pause the time at 1:31.
Sorry, I got a phone call that just at the wrong time. Okay, so anyway, he talked
Okay,
about Rebecca.
pause really quick. Let me reset your timer.
1 second. I can't even put it to 1:30. I could only put it to a whole minute.
We'll do. We can.
You let me know where the 1 minute mark is at, and then I'll just put the 1 minute mark at.
Actually, here, let me see.
When you put the 1 minute, when you say 1 minute, I'll put 1 minute on for him.
Okay, or I can do, or set 1:30 on
I can't set
your
1:30 on this thing. I could only set whole minutes.
Oh, okay.
We could just let it run down to 1:30 if you want to do that, or if you
just let him go another minute 30.
Yeah, I'll just finish up. I don't even think I have a minute 30 left. So basically, Tamar and Rebecca, he brought up Rebecca too, fully consenting to these things. So I'm not real sure what he's saying here is that, and I don't know there's a couple other things he said strangely, but he did say something about gibberish. It was interesting that atheists call scientific data gibberish. And it's ironic because that's what they say they want. When I provide the scientific data, it's gibberish. The reason it's gibberish to an atheist is because atheist feelings don't care about facts. And that's a huge problem in these debates. So in conclusion here, basically what he brought up doesn't tell me anything about whether the Bible is misogynistic. In fact, Dr. Josh Bowen will say some of these passages that he brought up are actually protection for women in the ancient Near East. And I land my plane.
Okay, with that, we'll end your timer. And then we're going to move on to the cross-examination. The affirmative is going to get 5 minutes to cross-examine the negation. And that will start whenever you say your first word, atheistic preacher.
No degree, do you believe that men and women are equal in their value?
Equal in their value, it depends on what you mean by that.
No, generalize it. Men and women, are they equal?
A man is not going to be equal as doing women roles as a woman would be. So no.
What's a woman role?
Case. Well, there's certain things that by nature women prefer to do. They prefer to marry up. They prefer to overall take care of their children at home. They prefer to be the nurturer, things like this. They prefer to be...
All right, thank you. I think I understand what you're saying. Okay, so why did God place Adam over Eve when all he did was just stand there and watch her, quote-unquote, be deceived? Why should a bystander that intentionally let his partner fail be in any kind of leadership role?
Well, when you say place Adam over Eve, you're just saying here Eve had certain... curses or problems as a result of the fall, and so did Adam because they're created differently.
God said he would rule over her. God said he would rule over her.
Well, it actually says your desire will be for your husband. That means a wanting to rule over him in Hebrew, but he will rule over you. So she actually wants to control him. It's just not happening.
So God cursed them to be divided forever and made sure that she was in submission to him. Again, you're just proving my point here. Let's move on. In Leviticus 15:19 through 33, it shows a period makes a woman unclean, and that everyone and everything she touches during this is unclean. What does having a period have anything to do with making someone quote unquote unclean, and why? How does it make anything else quote unquote unclean?
Because there's bodily fluids that come from her.
And somehow me hanging out with a woman on her period is wrong because...
Well, I mean, during that time period, sure, they did. It wasn't like they couldn't be as clean as they are today.
How does that make me unclean?
Well, because I guess there's this possibility that that certain body fluids are going to touch you as well. You're also considered unclean when you
No,
have
no.
sex
I've hung out with
till the
many
evening.
female friends while they've been on their periods,
Well,
and
look, we're
their
talking about
period
the
blood has
ancient Near
never
East.
ended up on me. So let's move on.
We're
According to
thinking about
Oxford,
the
hold on.
ancient Near
We're
East.
moving on. According to Oxford Academic, Flow Health, Planned Parenthood, and the National Institute of Health, we know that less than half of women bleed during their first time intercourse. If God is good and perfect, why would he give a faulty virginity test that carried the death penalty, knowing that only half of biological women do not, or half of women do not biologically bleed their first time?
Well, I wouldn't say that that was the case back then.
Do you have any evidence of that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I could present some.
Yeah, what is the evidence that
Well,
women's
today,
periods were different back then?
based on
Or I'm sorry, that they all bled last time.
based on, well, there's no explicit, but we can infer based on the foods we consume, the processed stuff, women doing things today that they would have not done in the past.
Can you actually present
women
evidence?
using toys that they wouldn't have used in the past, things of this nature. Yeah, I mean, I think
so you're
just
guessing, or do you have sources?
Well, no, I mean, these are just scientific facts right here.
Where are you getting the scientific facts that show that back then
it's a scientific
they all
fact
bled during their first time?
What's that?
Where are your scientific sources?
I don't have any.
No degree. Can I reclaim my time?
He's reclaiming his time, and let's make sure that he finishes his question.
I just say I didn't
Thank
have
you.
any
No
sources.
degree. What is your scientific sources that show the evidence that back in the ancient Near East time, women all
don't have
bled
any
during their
scientific
first time? Okay, you don't have any. Thank you. Let's move on. So you like to use Ruth as a story of women's consent and being cared for in society, but what about all the underlying legal and social pressures of that story that you are ignoring? Ruth chose to return with her mother-in-law to a home once she got there, she found herself in a society that left her so poor she had to go get scraps from a field, and when she learned a little bit more of how the society worked, she ended up laying herself at the feet of a man in offering for survival. That's desperation. So why do you ignore all of these contexts about Ruth's story to try to promote it as some kind of loving passage about women?
Oh, because it's easy. Because Naomi specifically told her, "Go back to your people," and Opal, her sister-in-law, actually did that. She refused. She said, "Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God."
That has nothing to do with what I asked you.
Everything Ruth did was fully consensual. There was no pressure. She was told not to come back.
You're addressing something that has nothing to do with my question.
Well, I'm just saying that argument won't work.
Yeah, okay. So you didn't even address the question, but let's move on because there's a couple more.
Well, we're gonna have to stop it right there.
Okay.
We are now gonna move on to open cross-examination. So this period does not belong to either you or no degree. Both of you share the control in this period.
So is this more like a just open conversation?
Yeah, an open, like you guys requested, the open conversation or cross.
To be fair, I don't remember. I requested an open conversation, not an open cross-examination. I don't know what that means. Yeah.
Well, basically, both of you guys are going to have equal control, so it's going to be like a conversation, but you're still
okay. Well, we could see it a 5-minute conversation or something.
Yeah, you guys.
Was it 5 minutes? Did you say?
Yeah, 5 minutes, and I'll put the timer. I'll put the timer on you, and then your cross-examination will be after that.
How many?
Okay.
And it's starting.
5 minutes, right? 5 minutes. Okay, you do. Okay, fine.
Sorry, I'll tell you next time. Go ahead. You both can go at it.
So I'll explain the whole issue with Ruth. Is you are addressing her going back to be with Naomi. Yeah, cool. That's not what I'm asking about. I'm asking about when she's actually there and she has found herself in this foreign area and she is learning about how society works there. She has found out that she is in a position where she is so poor and so desperate that she has to go to a field and get scraps in order for them to survive. And when she, again, is taught by her mother-in-law how that society works and how Boaz could help them, she is given the advice to present herself and her body at his feet while he sleeps. That is a woman literally accepting a role as lesser than and submissive to him, so that in hopes that he will have mercy on her and take care of her and provide for her and her mother-in-law. This is a woman acting out of desperation because of how poor she is. Because of how poor she is.
Practicing hypergamy, that's all. That's what women do. That's the point. It's natural. For some reason, it's in women's biology, and people have said from the atheist perspective, the scientist perspective, that this is an evolutionary benefit to women. Now, do you think
Are
that
you arguing for evolution, or are you arguing for the Bible?
no,
Oh wait,
I'm
let
just
no
simply
degree
saying
finish.
that you can't just deny what would be even what an evolutionist would say. It just seems to agree with the behavior of women here, what she's doing.
No, I'm asking you. Are you arguing for evolution, or are you arguing for what the Bible says?
No, I'm saying from your perspective, you would just have to say, based on this, that women, this idea that when a scientist says that women are hypergamous, they tend to marry up. I mean, would you say that they're acting in some sort of something similar to misogyny against men, or that this fact of the matter is misogynistic? That would be absurd, don't you
No,
think?
I have no idea what you're talking about and how it relates to is the Bible
That's because it's
misogynistic.
scientific facts, and feelings don't care about facts, according to atheists. They don't study this stuff. That's the issue.
Okay,
What I'm saying
I
is,
haven't looked at the
well, then
modern
you
dating
probably
app
should have.
data because I was preparing for is the
You
Bible
sh-
misogynistic, not
yeah, but
what the modern
why is
dating
it the
apps say.
case? Atheists are always wanting to. They say present the data, present the facts. The irony is, I'm the one bringing the data to the table
You're
here.
bringing data about something else. I don't care what modern dating
I'm
apps say
bringing
about
data
women
about the natural
today.
behavior of women versus men. That's what I'm doing.
Wait, yeah,
Okay, and I'm bringing up that in. I'm sorry, what?
or really quick, let's try to stay on topic. Yeah,
Yes.
the topic is the Bible misogynistic. Keep the data or relevant points towards the topic.
Yes, and I'm trying to bring
Yeah,
up
that's what I'm trying
and
to
I'm
do.
trying
Yeah.
to bring up context from scripture that shows how their legal system, their tradition practices, and the God character of their societies actually acted when they treated women, and it was oppressive, it was lower than men, it was them being able to treat women in all kinds of horrible ways. And yes,
Okay,
maybe back
I don't
then.
think you understand what I'm saying here. What I'm saying here is women, by default, when they enter relationships, they think, okay, I'm entering a relationship with someone who's higher than me so I can elevate myself. That's why you see even the most educated women in society today will often dump their poor mechanic men after they get an education and try to find someone who's higher than them. This is the natural behavior of women. And according to scientists, it's an evolutionary benefit. It's a byproduct of evolution. So I'm saying when the Bible is dealing with this, it's just dealing with the natural behavior of men and women. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Anyway, trying to stay on topic. So, jealousy. Do you think jealousy is loving?
I think jealousy is loving. Yes, it can be.
According to the Bible, no, it's not. In 1 Corinthians 13:4, it says that love is not jealous. So if that is the case, then why is it that God says that he is jealous in Exodus 25, Deuteronomy 4:24, and even says that his name is jealous in Exodus 34:14?
That's a different topic than what we're talking about.
No, we're talking about how God treats.
I mean, I don't understand
No,
why you're asking me about God's
because
jealousy.
and I'll explain. Because you're trying to say this whole, oh, I'm going to cherry pick the definition of misogyny to just say it doesn't teach to hate women. And I'm saying let's look at the context of how women are treated and the example that from a biblical context we're supposed to look at, which is God, and how God treats his bride. And so when I say when I'm talking about the nature of God and how, I'm sorry.
Oh, just finish your last sentence.
And how he treats his bride, being the example of how men ought to treat women, we see how God is vengeful, how he's jealous, how he lays waste and destruction all around, and that if he feels betrayed, he uses euphemisms like, I'm going to lift up your skirt and show your shame to everybody and stuff. And if we see the actual actions versus the words, that's very important because that gives us a huge look into the actual teachings of what the Bible teaches about women's roles and how they ought to be treated.
Okay, and we'll stop it right there. No degree, you're going to get 5 minutes for you to cross-examine atheist preacher. That will start. AR, are you ready?
Wait, to no
Yes,
degree,
I'm
right?
ready.
Or no degree is doing a cross examination, right?
Yeah, it's going to be 5 minutes.
Yeah, I got it. Yep.
And
Yes.
it starts whenever you say your first word, no degree.
Okay, so atheistic preacher, why do you think it is that women practice hypergamy and men don't?
I don't think that that's the case, and I don't know what studies you're using. I haven't reviewed them, so I can't speak on that.
I mean, you can even Google it on TikTok. experts will say women do this.
I
So
wouldn't take
is
research
it some
from
sort
TikTok.
of natural? Is it some sort of natural biological thing? Is it what's going on here?
Yeah,
Because you would
like I said,
agree.
I haven't reviewed this data that you're talking about in order to
Okay,
give a conclusion, but I would say from my personal
you
experience
think maybe
that
you
it's
should have?
no, because it's not relevant to the topic.
Well, I've presented the data
I
before.
I
Do you
would
think you
like
should
to
have done it
answer.
before? Well,
I would like
I'm
to answer.
actually moving on right now. Do you
Okay.
think that maybe you, because you've heard me present this data before, that maybe you should have looked into it before the debate?
Well, I ignored it because it's not relevant to the topic.
Oh, I think
If
it's
you
very.
wanted to debate today's views of what women and men do in terms of dating, then I would have looked into that for sure.
Well, don't you want scientific data to back up the Bible?
Do you have any?
Yeah, I'm giving this right here. You were talking
Okay,
about Ruth.
what are your
when
scientific
when you're
sources
when you're
that show
talking, well,
that?
you're not supposed to be asking questions here. You were talking about Ruth. Did you know that Ruth and Naomi were experiencing a famine in the land?
Yep.
Okay, did you know that Ruth's husband had unalived, Naomi's husband had unalived, and her sister-in-law's husband had unalived, and they were the only ones left?
Yep.
Okay, so when Naomi tells Ruth, "Go back to your land, to your people," and the sister-in-law did, why do you think Naomi refused?
Probably because she loved her.
Okay. And she thought that she even says, your people will be my people, your God will be my God.
Sure.
Now, does that to me sound like a woman who is desperate and just in some sort of pinch? I mean, her sister-in-law thought it was good enough to go back. Why couldn't she?
We don't know the personal circumstances between the two of the women, so we can't fully answer that.
Okay.
But as
So
I
you don't
said,
have
but
their
as I
mental
said
states,
before, but
right?
as I said before, that that's not what I'm referring to. I'm talking about when she actually got there and started learning about the society she was in, because the context does show she was learning about it while she was there. That she found out that because she was in this desperate
Well,
and
don't you
poor
think she
situation,
could
that she
have?
had
Don't
to.
you think she could have? I mean, Naomi wasn't forcing her. Don't you think she could have left and went back at that point?
I don't know. Maybe, maybe
I
not. But
mean, it
that
seems
doesn't
to be the
change.
case.
That doesn't do anything
Seems
to
to be the
change that the
case that
society was practicing
I think
misogyny
it
here.
does. Now, the I really didn't prepare any questions here, but I did have a couple of other questions here. Do you think in something like the bear experiment, where women are saying they'd rather spend the night with a bear than a man, and then this is brought up in front of men, is that done in some sort of effort to shame men, do you think?
No, I think it's done to educate men.
Educate men on maybe their gender roles as protector?
No,
Would that be fair to say?
no.
Okay, well then, if there's no gender norms, what is that thought
That's not
experiment
that's not
doing?
what I said. I said no
Okay,
because it's not to educate men about their gender role. It's about to
what is it to
educate
educate
men.
them?
It's about to educate men about what it's like to be in a woman's shoes when they encounter a man that they may not
Okay,
know what kind of danger they're
so
in.
that implies there's gender norms, right? You don't know what it's like to be a woman, right? And that you should know. You should be the protector here. It should be the case that women would say, "I'd rather spend the night with a man." Don't you agree?
I'm sorry, what?
Don't you think that it should be the case in a perfect world that women, when asked this question, should say, "I would rather spend the night with a man because I feel safe and protected."
Well, in a perfect world, it wouldn't matter if it was the man or the bear because the woman would be safe.
Okay, so in an imperfect world, but where men are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing,
I don't know what you mean by that.
their gender roles. Because the reason why these thought experiments is so bad and they fly in the face of feminism is women, when they practice hypergamy and when they do these things like, "Oh, well, I'd rather spend the night in the woods with a bear," that's a way to mock men, because there's certain things that women understand that a man is supposed to be. He's supposed to be the provider, the caretaker. They are submitting to the man. So when the Bible is dealing with submission, it's only dealing with what even women think is the appropriate way to live
Finish
their
up your
life.
last sentence.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay, cool. With that, we are going to go into one last open cross-examination or conversation, and then after that, we're going to go to final closing statements. So AR, let me know when you're ready.
For whom? Who's the closer? I'm assuming AP.
Yeah, it's going to be a 5 minutes open.
It's an open
person.
yeah.
Yeah, it's an open dialogue.
For everybody, doesn't matter. Okay, gotcha. All right.
And
So
I'm starting it now.
Okay, so my main point here is the case. When we have this brilliant, beautiful information, we can now reasonably conclude that the Bible isn't intending to be misogynistic. Paul is just simply dealing with the behavior of women. The Bible is dealing with the behavior of women. In fact, one of the other problems I was going to bring up with women is they have a tendency to air their dirty laundry on social media. It's getting so bad, in fact, that other women are saying, hey, shut the hell up, you're making us look bad. So when Paul is simply dealing with women in worship, we can just reasonably assume Paul understands the nature of men and nature of women and what best works in a relationship. Wouldn't that be feasible?
I don't know how you're saying that Paul was talking about women gossiping on social media. No degree.
He does
Also,
mention
really quick,
he actually mentions
no.
in the Bible gossip.
Let's try to stay on topic. I think we're skewing
Sure.
off a little bit.
So no degree. When do you know who Pastor Steven Anderson is?
No.
Okay, so I was listening to one of his sermons where he was talking about these quote-unquote gender roles from a biblical perspective, and he talks about how he practices spousal discipline and how he'll strike his wife, and he will use the Bible and its passages about loving your wife and leading your family to justify it. In Ephesians 5:22-3, 1 Timothy 3:4-5, 1 Corinthians 11:3, and it all relies back to Genesis 3:16 about how her desire will be contrary to her husband and yet he will rule over her, and that he is taking his gender roles given by the Bible very seriously, and that the Old and New Testament both support this misogynistic role of a patriarchy where women are underneath men, and that if he wants to strike her, he can, especially if it's for discipline. And we see that he owns her in all kinds of ways. He can say what she does. He can say where she goes. He can even control her words. As we see in the Bible, the law literally is given that if a woman makes a vow even to God and her father or her husband, yes, I'm almost done. And if her father and her husband disagree, they can literally revoke it. She can't even control her own words. How could you possibly say that this society, that this in the Bible, or that this God character is not misogynistic?
Well, the pastor guy you were talking to sounds like to me to be a bona fide dumbass. I would ask you, do you think he's loving his wife like Christ loved the church, like Paul commanded him to do?
I think that he can definitely use the Bible to justify how he's treating his wife. Absolutely.
But that wasn't my question. Do you think he's
yes, I think that he can use God. I think he can use the God character in the Bible to justify what he's doing.
Is that what you were saying? He was saying slapping her around?
Yes, there's all kinds of different methods, but I would say to answer your question. Let me answer your question.
Okay. Go ahead and answer the question.
Sure. To answer your question, I could definitely say that yes, he could show examples of how God disciplined, quote unquote, his wife, whether it be Israel in the Old Testament
or loving act, right?
Or believers in the New Testament, and how that was love.
Okay, so you think slapping a woman is love?
No, I do not.
Okay, then your argument doesn't work.
I said that he could make that case from the Bible.
I don't think he could. Since Jesus said there's weightier matters of the law, love, justice, and mercy, I don't think you could say, oh, because Jesus says there's weightier matters of the law that are more important, then it's okay for me to just every once in a while be violent to my wife.
Did we finish the 5
Would you
minutes?
agree?
Do we still have more time?
Yeah, you have a minute.
Okay. I'm sorry. What was the question again?
So if Jesus says there's weightier matters of the law, love, justice, and mercy, Paul says, love your wife like Christ loved the church and offered himself for it, then I don't see how you can think that some dumbass pastor can say, oh, well, look, I'm loving my wife like Christ loved the church by being violent to her.
Sure, I think that that would pretty much just get us to where when we look at the words of Paul, we can throw them out for the words of Jesus, who talks about how one ought love their family, including their wife. So little compared to how much they love God, that if God asked for example, Abraham to off his kid, that the act should be obedience to God. So this teaching of, oh, God wants you to love your wife,
So you
at a
think
moment's
God would?
notice,
You
could
think
also
God
mean
would
throw
tell
her in the
someone
fire if
to
he wanted.
slap? You think God would tell someone to slap their wife around?
And then you can
That's not what I
answer that
said.
question, and that'll be the end of the open.
Seems like what you're implying.
That's not what I said.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we end it there? That's it. I guess the question was answered. But we can now move on to closing statements. So, atheist preacher, you're gonna get 3 minutes to do your closing statement, and then no degree, you will follow. So
Okay.
I'm setting the timer. AR, you ready? It's 3 minutes.
Yeah, I'm ready. 3 minutes. Yeah, I'm ready. To who? AP?
Yeah,
Yes.
AP. Cool. And go ahead.
Again, a huge thank you to our hosts, Coco and AR of Day of Debates, for having us on to debate Is the Bible Misogynistic, to our judges, and to No Degree for being my debate partner again, and to you, the audience, for listening. A quick reminder of what misogyny is: the dislike of, contempt for, or ingrained prejudice against women. I believe I have presented plenty of passages throughout our time here to show that the Bible holds repeated examples of laws, practices, and teachings that put women on a lower level than men, allowing them to fall victim to many forms of oppression and harm, and we've only hit a handful of them. We can't forget about Ruth, who wanted to stay with her mother-in-law and found herself in a society that, for survival, she ended up presenting herself and body to a man at his feet while he slept. Ruth 3:8-9. And that's not a beautiful story of consent and want, but of desperation. We can't forget how, as punishment for shame, God took the victory for a male general and gave it to a woman, Judges 4:8-9, as if it is shameful for a man that his military battle be won by a woman. Or what about a favorite one I like to hear from most believers? Women said they saw the resurrected Jesus first. Women, who would believe women in that society? What about in the law in Numbers 33-8, when a woman can make a vow to God and her husband or a husband in Numbers 33-8, where a woman can make a vow to God and her husband or father can override it. Women can't even make a promise to God without the man say so. We can look at 2 Samuel 3:14-16, where David, although having many wives and children, took Michal from her then legal husband to be his wife. Where was her consent? And yet still, so much more can be looked at within the Bible and its stories to show either the Bible God is okay with or sets up this unequal system, or that the people that wrote this book and documented their society recorded it the way that it was, misogynistic. We see countless teachings, laws, and traditions that place women as less valuable than men. Their consent is greatly ignored and often led to violence, sexual and non, and that they were under the authority of men, either their husband or their father, and they could literally take back her words if they felt. There is no other word that we can use to describe this patriarchal system other than misogyny. Thank you.
Okay. With that, you had 38 seconds on the clock. We're gonna end it there. And No Degree, we're gonna start your 3 minutes. And AR, you got the 3 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, I had it. Yep. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. And No Degree, your 3 minutes starts now.
Well, I'd like to thank everyone once again for taking part in and listening to this debate. I thought it was an interesting debate. It's a debate I'd never had before. I don't think Atheist Preacher made a case. All he was doing is talking about prescriptions for law in the Mosaic Law, and saying, well, these are misogynistic. But again, I could just simply take this same approach, do a parity of reasoning, take prescriptions in the law dealing with men and what they're saying doing it, and say, okay, well, the same is true, the misogynistic version of men, whatever that word may be. So this argument just isn't really going to get anywhere. Plus, with the data that I had presented showing that women practice hypergamy, when they enter a relationship, they intend to marry up, to better themselves. Men, when they enter a relationship, that's not on their mind. In fact, they're more likely to pick a beautiful young woman working at a cash register, and they don't care if she's a lawyer or not. Women, on the other hand, would prefer a woman, a lawyer, according to studies, who's bodied over 100 men to marry, and men prefer a woman who has not invited anybody to marry. So it's just the different nature of men and women. We see this in the Bible. We see Ruth, we see Tamar, we see these women just naturally doing what their biology, how God created them to be the one to come along and be the helper to men. This is ultimately the role, whether women agree to it or not, actually is the role that they think they prefer, or they prefer implicitly, even though they never admit it. And they show this by thought experiments like, would you rather spend the night with the bear in the woods or the man? And women will say the bear, and point this out to shame the man. They'll talk about how men aren't behaving the way that they should be, and this is a huge problem, showing that there are gender norms. And because women do try to marry up, this actually defeats the feminist movement, because the feminist is saying a woman doesn't need a man. Even the most educated women practice hypergamy. It doesn't make sense if feminism were true, if what they believe is true. So I just don't think atheistic preacher presented any kind of case. I can point to passages where Jesus is saying, the greatest commandments is love, and that is above all. I can also point to, interestingly, he brought up 1 Corinthians chapter 13, which is considered the love chapter. It's the one that women love having quoted in. It's the most quoted verses in all of the Bible when it comes to marriages. Secular women. What's that?
Finish up your last sentence.
Okay. So the point here is women don't really think implicitly about, this idea, because they understand there's gender roles, gender norms for male and female as well. And the Bible's just simply dealing with that.
Okay, we'll stop it right there. So that's going to be the conclusion of the debate. Thank you, atheistic preacher, and thank you, No Degree, for your candor. We're going to allow the judges to have their moments to come up with like their scores or who they deem to be the winner of the debate. While they're figuring out their judgments for the debate, I'm going to put up a poll so the audience can vote for who they thought won the debate. And then while all of that's going on, we're going to be doing audience questions. For the audience questions, historically, they have turned into like mini debates. So what I'm going to do is each audience member is going to get 1 or 2 minutes to ask their questions and have a back and forth with the contestants. But after the 2 minutes, you will get dropped immediately. Don't be offended. We're trying to be fair for everybody and give everybody equal time. So with that, judges, now would be the time to finalize your decisions. I'm going to put up the poll, and then we're going to get to audience vote. Or if there's any
I set up the poll, Coco. I just want to know if you could just like look over it and see if I need to like change anything up. But I like how I set it up. But it's up to you.
Let me see if I can.
Judges mostly finished, and we decided that I'm going to go and levy my, I don't want to call them judgments, but my thoughts first.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I didn't come up with a point system because I thought that wouldn't exhaust the points being made. So I took a general overall points and substance. We'll get it over with. I think AP won, but there are a lot of different reasons why I think, but not to get into all of them. One of the main reasons is that, even if you grant all the empirics about, that No Degree referenced about women being hypergamous, even if you're as charitable as possible and saying all those are true, in my view, that would support that, women are, there's some type of relationship that which exists between men and women, wherein men are higher ordered than women, such that the women wouldn't otherwise be able to achieve whatever their end goal is, and that they need a man to do it, which seemed to be counterintuitive to the point he was arguing. And that's one of the main reasons why I gave the substance over to AP. It's not even for anything AP said himself. It's just because, not mostly anything that AP said himself, but it's because it seemed like the points being made were either irrelevant to the topic of debate or establishing the topic as true, or actually counted in favor as the topic being true from both parties, and that's why.
So are you? Who are you declaring the winner?
Yeah, AP.
He said AP. Yeah, he said AP.
We can do audience vote, or do the other judges want to render who they thought won? Are you guys ready, or do you need time?
I can
Hey,
go
by the way, are
next
y'all
on this.
doing questions for the audience, or how's that going to work?
Yeah, we're gonna do questions and
We're
then
gonna
Okay.
do, yeah, we're gonna do questions after the judges give their intake. I think that should be fair, right? Right, Coco, or no?
yeah, we can do that. I guess the judges are ready, so I guess go ahead.
Unless Jim wanted to go first, I could go. Oh yeah. Do you want to go, Jim? Or are you good?
No, I was gonna say you could go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll just say that I do agree with the points that Cage made, but not to mimic the same exact points. I'll try to say something different. I noticed just to start it off, I do think that AP won. Um, so I mean, it could be the case that from what I heard, all of what uh, No Degree was saying is true, and by everything he's saying, even the parts that weren't like really relevant, because um, it seems like the atheist only needs like one particular example of misogynistic behavior within the Bible. But for you to move to a different part of the Bible or a different part of the text and give an example of something that goes against misogynistic behavior would require you to argue that we should view the Bible as like not some dispersed text that were like put together, but as like a whole coherent story that you should approach with a particular hermeneutic. And that wasn't argued for. And so I think, like that, the things that you said about the other parts of the Bible, like I said, going against misogynistic behavior could still be true. And I think AP's point still goes through. So that's it for me.
Okay, thank you for that. Just Jim, you can go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I kind of when I was listening to it and judging this debate and how I'm going to judge the other debates is how closely each interlocutor was able to argue for the topic that's at hand, whether pro or against. How closely were they able to stay on topic, and whether their rebuttals fully addressed the opponent's argument, and whether the cross-examination was handled adequately, as well as the information that was presented, whether it was presented in a way that was clear, and whether the interlocutor was organized in terms of the structure of their argumentation and debate. And looking at this, I'm going to have to go with Atheistic Preacher, because I think that he presented an argument related to the topic, was able to present information to support his argumentation, and I think with the rebuttal and the cross-exam, he stayed on point, whereby No Degree may have had pretty good points, but I think they deviated from the topic of whether the Bible is not misogynistic. I would have rather seen him at least give some indication on how the Bible itself is not misogynistic, a little bit more than just overall stats about women and gender roles in general. So for that reason, I think I'm gonna give the points to Atheistic Preacher.
Okay. And with that, we're going to move on to audience vote. The judges voted 3 for Atheist Preacher. So congratulations, Atheist Preacher, on your win.
Thank you.
We are going to go on to audience vote. Haru's the first person up here. And Haru, you're going to get 2 minutes.
Can I have big screen? Can I have big screen real
Can
quick?
we
Because those are
can
my
we put a
questions.
timer? Can we put a timer on each guest so that we know we're not going over?
Yeah, each guest is going to get 2 minutes. And then Haru, you want big screen? Keep it
Yeah.
appropriate, please.
So those are all my questions.
Damn. Okay. Anyway, wait. Before you get to your question,
I can't read that.
the polls. Did anybody take a screenshot of the polls? Or
I didn't take a screenshot, but hopefully
It was
someone could.
yeah. So I'll read it real
How
quick.
big did I win according to the polls?
Can we repeat my time?
AP won the votes on the polls.
How many votes did I get?
Yeah. I have to see. Did anybody take a screenshot of
You
that?
you got 4 votes, one from somebody who voted for you as a theist, and and then 3 people who voted for you, and they're agnostics.
Wow. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so can I, since No Degree can't hear it, this doesn't require like any talking. I have an honest question. Why are men that haven't done research on the topic that they debate, should be on TikTok like platforms? I understand men talking on topics they are informed on. However, a man that doesn't know how to debate at all with any information that they are able to debate on the topics informed. I have another question. Can I get free therapy for like going somewhat insane with a terrible like debate
Well, what was
between
your first question? I don't know what your first
no,
question
like
is.
this doesn't like I can send this to you later, No Degree. Yeah. So I have like another question. Can I get free therapy for like the terrible debate that like I saw with like men defending
I
misogyny?
think she's just up here with a
Yeah.
platform. I don't think she's asking us a
Please,
question.
please, hold on, Haru.
So,
You have
I
a
mean,
Uh,
question?
if
You have a
time is
question
of the
specifically
essence, she
directed
needs to
at
ask a
somebody?
question.
okay, so technically it's supposed to be questions, comments, concerns, but he was asking rhetorical questions, I guess.
There was one on there that I saw that they didn't have a chance to read, but I think it was addressed towards me. Could I address it?
Uh, I guess. Do
Sure.
we want to?
It'll be real quick. Um,
But
so,
But really quick, do we want to bring Haru back, or are we just we're
Yeah,
done with that?
let's bring Haru
I mean,
back,
I can't read her small
and if
print.
it's
Just
not his
or
turn,
she wants to
Haru.
ask a question, ask a question. But
Yeah,
I
Haru,
mean,
you just let's ask a question, but then like right, just try not to be rhetorical with it. Just ask the question that you actually want answered.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's not have like a slaughter fest. But
Yeah, we want to keep it professional.
oh, but
Yeah.
do you have any questions for them? They can. We'll give you a minute. But do you have any questions that they can actually answer?
So atheistic preacher, were you like reading off like a script or like reading off the notes?
both. So I took the time to go through and plan out my introduction and conclusion, but I did take notes while No Degree was speaking, and I addressed those while I was talking to him.
Yeah, like 8 down because like typically what I've somewhat seen like with debates is like individuals will just use AI to like write their scripts. So W atheist preacher on that, like
Yeah, no, I think that would be lazy to just use the AI like that. So yeah, I just wrote down my research on it.
an atheistic preacher, I have like another question. Do you believe like this was like a good debate?
I think that it could have been better. I wish that I had a little bit more time to address certain points and talk about others, and I wish No Degree gave a little bit more of a debate on his side for an argument of why the Bible isn't misogynistic instead of trying to tie in modern dating app data to back then.
Yeah, so thank you.
Okay, and with that, we will move on to the next person that wants to ask questions. Does anyone in the comments? I don't see anyone in the request, but does anyone want to come up and ask any questions? We're right on time. Our next debate starts at 7:26. It's going to be Forest versus Wisdom Songs on Is Christian Teaching Inherently Harmful to Children? Yeah, that's gonna be the next topic. Do we got any like last minute questions? Forrest is stepping in for somebody. Oh, Rabbi, what an honor! Thank you.
No, wait, no. Truly Cosmic was first.
Oh, truly Cosmic goes first. Okay, yeah. Either way, but an honor to have both of you on the platform. But yep, you got 2 minutes. Truly Cosmic.
Truly
Go ahead.
Cosmic. Truly, you there?
You there?
Does she even know she's up here?
No, maybe not.
I would
Let's
just
just move
kick
on
them
to the next
if they
one.
don't answer in
I'll
like
just
5
mute.
seconds.
Yeah, I'll
Just leave.
mute until maybe. Okay, Rabbi, go ahead. You there?
I am here. Okay, so I only caught the tail end, but as you wanted to use the idea of man versus bear in terms of this idea of misogyny, I would say if you wanted to use the biblical understanding, why wouldn't you just turn to Proverbs 17:12, where it says it is better to be around a she-bear robbed of her cubs than a man in his folly? Even the Bible tells you to choose the bear. And when you're going to debate about something such as misogyny, the fact that you have two men debating over something that men do not experience, is a very weird flex.
Well, I guess that's a question for me. That's actually a good point, but that point could have been made in my favor about the woman. But what I'm simply saying here, and this is, look, I knew going in, I said, I can present the facts. Atheists want facts all the time. They want the data. But I knew that feelings don't care about facts. So I knew that atheistic preacher would just call it gibberish and just disregard it. And it actually proved a point that I often make, that I can argue that, look, the Bible is just dealing with the nature of men and women, this hypergamous behavior of women versus
I don't think
men
you know what
not
that means.
practicing hypergamy. Well, it means marrying up, trying to elevate yourself.
That was not a thing within the cultural context.
Well, what I'm
What
saying
you're
here
trying to
is
speak on.
it's just the natural order of men and women. That's why it says Adam, the suitable helper. She's looking for someone who she can help, but she doesn't want to have to lower herself down. And this is just the nature of men and women altogether.
None
And
of what you are saying is anywhere near correct.
Well, None
of what you're saying, Matt, is correct.
What I'm saying
Proverbs
here,
17:12 is not in your favor.
I've
You know
asked
that, right?
women.
Proverbs
I've literally
17:12
asked
is
women.
not something
hold on,
that's in
guys.
your
One at a
favor.
time.
I've asked women on Discord these questions, and they actually agree they would prefer to be married to a king or a side chick of a king than the wife of a peasant, because
hold on.
they
Pause
mentioned
right
this
there.
protection type thing.
Well, hold on. Pause right there. Rabbi, do you want to insert another comment, or were you going to say one last thing?
I will say this. I appreciate when anyone has intellectual or any type of conversation that regarding the biblical text, but that would require a little bit of knowledge of why you keep inviting No Degree to come unarmed to a debate he will never understand is beyond me. At this point, it's just shaming him, or he's got a humiliation kink.
Rabbi, with all due respect, I just come with the facts. My opponent didn't. That's pretty much. Now I can say my opponent. I can say my opponent.
Sorry. We don't have enough
we
time.
got to cut it there.
Okay,
well, I'm going to finish, because if she's going to say this, then I need to address what she said, right?
Okay, you got.
I mean,
one
do I
sentence?
not get the final
Go
word?
ahead. You have one sentence.
I am a debate opponent, right?
Try to be concise, please. Go ahead.
Yeah,
okay, so what I'm saying here is,
we got to move on.
I provided the passages where clearly Jesus says the most important things is mercy and love. And why Christians don't see this is beyond me. And these other passages, these were never refuted. So the debate, in my mind, that was it. But I also backed it up with scientific fact, which my opponent did not have. And that was my approach. And I liked it, and I would do it again if I were debating this topic.
Okay, we'll cut it there.
Thank you. Okay, so Truly Cosmic, are you there?
You got something for us?
Truly? You there, or do we have to drop you? Okay, Truly, thank you for coming up.
Yeah, well, we got to move on.
Yeah, we have to. Okay, I thought Tiny was on the requests. I don't know if he still wants to come up.
I
guess not.
But
we had 2 minutes left, anyways. All right, so.
Yeah, we got to get to Forest versus Wisdom Songs. Hopefully they're in the room.
But... I mean, we could get it.
Okay. Yo, Tiny, you got 2 minutes, and we can get that in before we move on.
Okay, No Degree, do you think you won this debate? If so, how?
Hands down. Because I presented yet again, I even showed that if I make a parody of reasoning arguments doing the exact same thing, he couldn't refute it. And if he thinks that that's a bad argument, then by parody of reasoning, his own argument is a bad argument. And this is what I did. I do this a lot in debates, but I could just simply do that. I'm almost finished here. But I thought I won because I presented
argument you provided.
I presented the passages of Scripture that elevate women, that show women are equal, things of this nature. And I also provided the scientific data that shows that women behave a certain way and men behave a certain way. And the Bible is just simply dealing with their natural behavior in a fallen world.
What was the scientific data you provided?
Did you listen?
Yeah, I didn't hear it.
One of them was that women practice hypergamy, men don't.
He said he had no scientific sources.
What's this based on?
This is
what
based
were the sources
on,
you provided?
I mean, there's a number of them. I mean, I didn't. You want me to just go out and start looking for that? All you have
Did
to
you
do
provide
is
one source?
No, he said he didn't have any.
No, but I have plenty of data. I
So
mean,
you
it's
didn't
not a
provide the scientific data. You do
well.
realize
I
that, right?
mean, what I'm saying here is that it's non-controversial. I mean, all you have to do is who practices hypergamy the most, and Google it, and they'll say women. That's
Well,
Yeah,
every
did you
expert
provide
says
that
this.
data?
wait, hold on,
You
hold
didn't
on,
provide that data.
really quick.
Well, I mean,
Moderator, wait,
I
hold
mean,
on,
it's just scientific fact. I thought that
guys. Hold on, hold on.
Yeah.
Uh,
No.
uh, um, a point that I
by
can
the
make
way,
as
he didn't disagree with that,
hey,
Daddy.
hey, moderator speaking. Hold on, comment. A point that I can make as a moderator is if you're going to say that you have scientific data for something, we need to see like sources. You need to present the data. I don't want to be biased or anything, but it seems as
Well,
if you're
Coco,
saying
what
like,
if he agrees
wait,
with
wait,
the
wait.
data? Do I need to present it?
Well, yeah, you would
Because
still.
he
Wait,
could
hold
have
on,
asked
hold
for
on, hold on. Wait. Let me finish real quick.
don't you
Um,
think he could have asked for the?
Wait, no degree. Hold on. So, like, if you make a claim that there's data, even if your opponent agrees with it, when you say there's data, you have a burden to present the data and the sources that you have. It sort of seems like you're saying like there's data and like it's obvious and you should trust it, but yeah, what he's asking, I guess, is like, could you present any sources to back that up?
See, that's weird, Coco, because I've been in plenty of lives where you've been in, and I've seen people talk about the evidence for evolution and never present any data. So what I'm saying here is, if my opponent in the debate had an opportunity to say present the data, he didn't do that because he knows, and everyone knows here, that the nature of women is to practice
Will you
hypergamy.
make
Now,
it stop?
I think most atheists didn't know what hypergamy
Will
meant,
you
but
please
they
make it
understood it
stop?
once I explained it to them.
All right. Well, I guess we're gonna end it. We're gonna end it there. We're gonna
May I
try to see
say
if we can
like
get.
one thing before we say goodbye?
Yeah, you can
No, we're
say.
done. End
Just
it.
like 30 seconds.
Oh yeah, you can
Let
get
me
30
say
Yeah,
one more
seconds.
thing.
I just want to say
But
I just want to say
back
thank
to
you again for having me up. I greatly do appreciate this. And moving forward, I would love to do any kind of debates with anyone regards to like the resurrection, slavery, free will, and stuff like that from a biblical perspective. So if anyone is interested in that, please send me a message. But yeah, thank you for having
Ooh,
me.
I
It
love the
was a great
resurrection
time.
debate. Maybe we can do
I
that.
would rather have someone else. Sorry.
Okay, and yeah, we can
Someone
move
who
on.
thinks scientific data is gibberish.
Yeah, we can move on. We need to grab the next debate contestants, but thank you both for being here. We do appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, and we'll try to get the recording up on
And
YouTube.
thank you for those 3 agnostics that voted for me.
By the way, if anyone took a screenshot of those poll results, please send it to me on Discord or find some way to get it to me. But okay, let's clear the panel, and we're gonna try to focus on panel, and we're gonna try to focus on getting those other people